HealthWish is a series of conversations about the state of healthcare in New York City's fabulous fifth borough, Staten Island. Our goal is to raise issues, raise awareness, and raise health. Because when we raise health, we raise everyone. MitraClip, ablations, TAVR, and meditation. Join us as we open up about the mind, body, and soul with the cardiology team at Staten Island University Hospital. Give it a listen.
So, in one sentence or less, tell me your favorite major advances that we as a group have seen in cardiovascular services on Staten Island. Go for it.
We work a lot with our structural cardiology team, which is really led by Greg Maniotis, and it involves a bunch of people. So it involves echo techs, and he has a great NP blurta, and they see patients that have leaky or tight valves. And so one thing that we've really been ramping up is what's called a MitraClip. And so it's basically when your mitral valve is leaky and it doesn't kind of close all the way, and we can put a staple in it, like a little clip that holds those leaflets together, and then your valve isn't as leaky. And it's a really great way for us to manage our patients' symptoms and make them feel a lot better.
What about open heart surgery, Sam? I thought everybody with mitral valve problems required open heart surgery. When do we introduce the MitraClip?
So we have great surgeons, and we can do surgeries for the mitral valve, but as people get older, they can't recover from cardiothoracic surgery. So it's a 3-month recovery, and they're not gonna be able to get up and moving and do that physical therapy and that rehab. But they still have heart conditions, and we wanna be able to serve our patients who might have too many medical problems to make surgery safe or might be too old to make surgery safe. And that's when our structural cardiology team comes in, and they can do this procedure called a MitraClip or other procedures like a TAVR.
What's TAVR?
TAVR. So, speaking about valves, TAVR is a procedure that is less invasive. It's not open heart surgery, where we can go and take a valve that is way too tight, that's not opening properly, and completely replace it by just going through the blood vessel in the groin. It's remarkable.
Those are major advances, but you're talking really about some very frail people, or what could be very frail people, the elderly who are getting MitraClips instead of open heart surgery, whereas we treat young people potentially with mitral valve repair. Some of these people, again, are far more advanced in age. The same true for TAVR. Yes, we use that technology in younger people. It occurs to me that in order to take care of those kind of patients, we need other things in the hospital. It's not just about the procedure, right? What do we have in your mind to care for those people? What kind of changes have we made to take the sickest of the sick in Staten Island and really give them a great shot?
Well, Mitch, everything that we're doing in the CCU, which is the Cardiac Intensive Care Unit, is going to help take care of these patients.
We've even had 2 patients recently go for transplant, right? Which is an option we didn't used to have for a lot of our patients. But by having our heart failure specialists here and having the connection with the bigger Northwell system, we take care of these patients who are younger but have very weak hearts. And they're so weak that they're not really able to sustain life on their own at a certain point. And our team, Dr. Rojas and Dr. Liu, have kind of helped transition them from here to other locations where we can give them heart transplant. And our goal is kind of bringing them back to Staten Island and taking care of them here.
You're right. In the span of 2 weeks, we actually transplanted 2 people from Staten Island, something that really just speaks to just that. We are taking the sickest of the sick and offering them a real opportunity at life.
And one thing with patients who've undergone transplant, they require a lot of follow-up afterwards. And we're able to provide all of that here. They don't have to constantly be crossing the Verrazano, going into the city. They can stay right here close to home for that advanced cardiac care.
So we've talked a lot today on HealthWish about really serious cardiac disease, but there has to be a better way, right? There's got to be a way that we can reach people far before disease sets in and somehow prevent this. What are you all doing to really contribute to that effort, to help patients not get these problems?
You've hit the nail on the head. Preventative cardiology is my passion. As you said, once people have their event, we know how to treat it. But the goal of prevention is to prevent that first event from ever happening. And so we've been given the opportunity, thank you very much, me and one of our colleagues, Dr. Nevilev, to start a preventative cardiology clinic.
What happens in a preventative cardiology clinic?
We will see patients who have risk factors for heart disease. That is a part of primary prevention. So if you have high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, if you have a strong family history of heart disease, you're going to come see us and we're going to prevent that first event from ever happening. We're also going to see patients who have already had a cardiac event, that's called secondary prevention, and work on modifying their risk factors. We're going to have calcium scoring, for example. We're going to be talking a lot about lifestyle modifications, which are so important, like diet and exercise. So the diet that has been shown to really be beneficial in reducing cardiovascular mortality is the Mediterranean diet and the plant-based diet. I've tried the plant-based diet, but I can't do it, but Jessie can. So I'm gonna let Jessie talk about a plant-based diet.
Sure, I'll talk about plant-based diet. With all of my patients, I talk to them about what they're eating, and I tell them we can use food as medicine or poison, and we're always going to use food as the first line of treatment. I'd rather have you change your diet than have to put you on cholesterol medicine. Sometimes we need medicine to help, and a plant-based diet is not becoming vegan or not eating meat anymore, but it's really focusing on fruits and vegetables and having that be the main part of your plate with every single meal.
I have a problem, okay? I don't know that plant-based diets are for me. And let's say I walked into your office with that attitude. What do you do to take a guy like me or a person like me who loves two steaks together on that plate with my pasta? How are you gonna help me change? Do I have to change?
So I'm not going to take away your steak. I'm not going to tell you can never eat steak again. But maybe I don't want you to eat it as much. Maybe you're having it 5 times a week. I'd rather you cut back and maybe once or twice a week have a really nice steak, but not so much all the time.
What about you, Sam? What do you do to take somebody who is set in their ways? Do you have any tricks that you're able to reach people, that people on HealthWish can say, you know what, I'm going to give my doctor a shot. I'm going to work with them to make change here?
I mean, you're talking about me. I am that person that wants steak every night, but I recognize that it's just about making smart choices. You know, and the other way is we're talking about diet, but there's obviously exercise. I like to say that I am a very empathetic cardiologist because I also don't like exercise, and so I understand the plight of our patients, but it's something that I've really just been incorporating into my life. And so as opposed to it being a big ordeal, it's just becoming more and more a part of my routine.
So 150 minutes of exercise a week, which is one of our recommendations to a healthy lifestyle. But yet we've really been encouraging our patients to do that, and we know that has effect. There are a lot of other activities or regimens that can help people become healthy. What else do we have?
So I think the most important thing we have to do as cardiologists is to give patients tools to strengthen their mind-body connection. And that way, whatever stresses they have don't affect their heart. And something that I do in my own day-to-day life is daily meditation, and I do yoga a couple of times a week. And meditation, basically, you breathe, you introspect. There's many different tools for meditation. There's various forms of yoga now, but that's also a way to stretch, to relax, to breathe, and really attune to one's body.
I actually did monthly chair yoga.
I cannot imagine it. Did you do a good job?
It depends on how you gauge a good job. I did try very hard.
Good.
Did it relieve your stress?
It did, and that brings me to an amazing other topic, stress, and something called stress cardiomyopathy. There's a lot of stress cardiomyopathy on Staten Island. It's otherwise known as the broken heart syndrome. Tell us about that. Have you seen that in the hospital, Sam, since you spend a lot of time there?
I saw a patient on Monday with stress cardiomyopathy. And it's basically when there is some sort of profound stress on your body. It could be physical, it could be an illness, or it could be mental. But basically the stress on your body causes your heart to become suddenly weaker. So our heart's a pump and it accepts blood and it pumps that blood forward. And when you have this kind of heartbreak heart, you accept the blood, but it doesn't quite pump it all forward. And so it's this kind of sudden decrease in your pump function. And the really neat thing about stress cardiomyopathy is if we diagnose it and if we put you on the right meds, it can get better over time, it can improve. But you really need to be aware that it exists. You really need to, if you're having symptoms of sudden shortness of breath or chest pain or leg swelling, you need to come to the hospital. And we have our echo techs who can diagnose by getting images of your heart. We bring you to kind of our cardiology areas, we put you on the right medications, and then we make sure that you see a cardiologist afterwards.
So the heart's not really broken.
It's injured.
It's just injured. It's tired. Okay. You know, we talked a lot about the heart, but we didn't really talk about electricity of the heart, the conduction system of the heart. I had a patient that I recall who came into me saying, I've got palpitations. My heart is beating incredibly fast. Jess, what do you do with that? Where does that fall into the field of cardiology, and how do you care for it?
So when someone's complaining to me or concerned about having a fast heartbeat, we're of course going to get what's called an EKG in the office. That's where we put the stickers and the electrodes on the chest, and we can see right then and right there what that heart rhythm is. A lot of patients have something called atrial fibrillation. That is an irregular heart rhythm that is very, very common, where the heart, the electrical system, there's one area where it's just taken over and it's trying to be the boss and tell the heart to go at all these different rates. How do we treat that? So we have different medications that we can do for that. We have different procedures that we can do to get people out of atrial fibrillation, to get them feeling their best and try to get rid of those symptoms that the atrial fibrillation is causing.
There's been a big push towards the procedural care of electrical disease of the heart, of conduction disease. You take care of a lot of those patients in the hospital. Yeah. What do they go through? What kind of treatments are they getting? What does their course look like?
So when we're talking about the electrical part of the heart, that's a whole special field called electrophysiology. And so we have a team of 4 electrophysiologists. So they're basically individuals who trained in medicine for 3 years, trained in cardiology for 3 years, and then did 2 more years of training just to specialize in heart rhythms. And so obviously they can treat these with medications, but there's really been a push in cardiology for trying to get people back into normal rhythm. The longer you're in an abnormal rhythm like atrial fibrillation or AFib, your heart starts to kind of change in the way that it's shaped and its structure. And kind of once you're in AFib for a long time, it's harder to get you out of it in the future. And so we've been moving more and more towards trying to put you back in a normal rhythm. And one of the ways we can do that is a procedure called an ablation. An ablation can be used to treat AFib, but it can also be used to treat many different types of heart rhythms. And it's basically when our electrophysiologists go inside the heart. So they use wires and cables, and they're kind of inside your heart looking at the electricity, and they can make marks. They either use something very hot and burn at your heart, or something very cold and freeze at your heart, and it forms a scar over time. And that scar is kind of like an insulator. It's kind of like that plastic wrapping around electrical wires, and it kind of helps fence in those abnormal electrical circuits so that you can't have these abnormal heart rhythms. And for certain types of abnormal heart rhythms, ablations are fantastic and have 90 to 95% success rates. For AFib, the success rate isn't as high, but it also reduces how often you have AFib. So for patients who really feel the abnormal heart rhythm, it can really improve their quality of life and make them feel better.
We do at Staten Island University Hospital nearly 1,000 invasive electrophysiologic procedures in the hospital annually. There are even these amazing advances, taking defibrillators and pacemakers and really miniaturizing them now. A lot of our pacemakers are not inserted here anymore, but are actually inserted in the heart and deposited in certain areas. So really some major advances that we have with our 4 electrophysiologists at Staten Island University Hospital leading the way. A very exciting field, to be sure. You like to cook?
I do.
You do like to cook. I find cooking to be a little bit therapeutic, and also because it takes some time, it slows me down so that I don't really gorge myself on the entire meal. I like to sous vide a steak. We were talking about steak before. I like to do a nice rotisserie chicken. Those are my favorite dishes. What about you, Jess? You mentioned something about an alternative diet pattern.
So at home, we eat primarily plant-based, so a lot of fruits and vegetables. Last night, we made a lentil stew that my 2-year-old loved. And it just, like you said, it makes you kind of slow down. We have the 2-year-old help prepare the meal. We kind of do it as a family, and it takes us just kind of a moment out of that busy day to be together, but also cook something that's heart healthy for the whole family.
Wow, and we're going to do some cooking, I think, here and de-stressify after some of this great conversation, and I'm pretty excited about it.
I'm hungry.
What a great conversation that this was. I had a blast. I found it to be truly interesting. I know the people listening to this HealthWish episode are just going to love it, and let me take the opportunity to really express a huge thank you to Richard and Lois Nicocher for making this transformative gift to Staten Island University Hospital, Northwell, and naming the Heart Institute the Richard and Lois Nicosia Heart Institute. It's going to change the world for us, for the way we provide care for cardiology and cardiac surgery patients on Staten Island. And I can say clearly and surely that we are going to raise health above here on Staten Island.
HealthWish wishes to thank our special guests, Dr. Mitch Weinberg, Dr. Supriti Bahoria, Dr. Jessica Bjorklund, and Dr. Samantha Lee. Recorded at the above rooftop at the Staten Island Hilton Garden Inn. For more information on the Lois and Richard Nicosia Heart Institute and ways to give back, please click the link in the video description. We're very interested in your health wish. Contact us at healthwish@northwell.edu. Thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again soon.